You're listening to Second Cut. This is the podcast where I forgot that I changed the intro because we're not with the film magazine anymore, because that is technically no longer an entity because, yeah, whatever. You already know. If you're listening to this, you know. I'm Jacob. We talk about whatever topics, movies, stuff.
Yeah.
I'm Jacob. I'm the one who forgot our intro.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who's an H-O-O-D.
I'm Kieran. I'm the one that is theoretically meant to turn it up to 11 and probably won't have that much enthusiasm at a certain point. I am dying right here.
The most H-O-O-D thing about Sam is the hood on his jacket right now. And you know what, Kieran? Your attitude is turned up to 11. So,
obviously.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. I do have a Marshall amp just there, and it doesn't have an 11 on it. I'm very upset.
Oh.
You can only imagine.
They do special ones with 11 on it now.
Have you ever noticed on IMDb, by the way, that Spinal Tap is the only film on it rated out of 11 rather than out of 10?
Yeah, there are weird things like that. Like on Spotify, if you listen to any of the official Star Wars music, the bar at the bottom that tells you how far through the track is turns into a lightsaber.
That's true. Yeah.
It doesn't happen for any other music that I know of. Like you could be Adele or Lana Del Rey or anything like that. They don't do it. John Williams, that changes. Purely
That would
for
be
Star Wars.
Weird if it turned into a lightsaber for Lana Del Rey.
You know what I mean? There's no equivalent. Like Harry Potter, you don't have like I don't know, kind of the Horae Incantatum kind of like Expelliarmus thing going along or something like that, or a sword or something like that. It's only for Star Wars. It's great. But yeah, music.
I wonder how much they paid for that.
Who knows? Nope.
Yeah, so I mean, if you read our episode title, we're technically doing musical biography pictures, but Kieran chose a mockumentary, so
it is a biopic, surely. No, we forgot to say we have the news because it's been done. I was going to say we need the BBC pips going. No, Jacob's like, what pips? What?
We'll have our own nationalized media soon. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, we are going to take go to take over the world somehow eventually. Yeah. But until then, we are now on Substack.
Oh, I was like, what is the news, by the way?
Yeah.
Did you not know this? We've started it up. We've now got one or two things up there. We're getting ready to go, and we haven't mentioned it yet because it hasn't been done yet. Yes, we are now on Substack. That is a thing.
Yeah. And you would think only Kieran writes for it because he's 2 for 2.
That's because
I'll have 2 by next weekend.
Yeah. Please bear with us on the slow putting up. There's 3 of us. We have lives. This is not the only thing we do, and we're slowly getting used to the system and how it works and how to share things and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
and some of our countries are falling apart. So
I was going to say, yeah. Some in the nicest way, Jacob. It is nice for once in the past sort of 5 years to be in the country that's vaguely stable. I use the term vaguely very, very loosely, but it's nice to be the one out of,
because there's some crap going on over here as well, but it's nothing compared to what you guys are going through.
If you're a British
nothing
fisherman,
compared to what it used to be,
it's real tough from what I've read. So I mean, shout outs to the British fishermen who are losing money. But that red tape, guys, the red tape was real bad. Good thing we don't have red tape anymore.
I was going to say, I'm sure that red tape will be a topic when we get to Kneecap.
Yeah. It's weird watching, it's weird, as Kieran would say, watching things about the Troubles and all that, because I have literally no cultural context for it, except for at the very end when they're like, hip hop was the voice for black people in America, and now it's the voice for Irish people in the UK. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know if Irish people are the black people of the UK, but I get it. It's coming together.
I'm just going to put this out very, very quickly. At some point, when we have the ability to, I think we all need our own merch. I will have It's Weird. Sam will probably have, I'll give it a 6. Jacob can come up with one.
Yeah. I won't ever make it.
Now we're doing reviews on Substack with a rating out of 10 again. I can start doing 6s.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. We may go to our own rating system at some point. An Ebert 4 stars. Why not 5? Why do we do this? But yeah. We got
because it's percentage based. We can equate things out of 10 and out of 5 fairly easily. I mean, maybe not Americans, but most humans, I think, can figure that out.
I was going to say, not including you, but can a lot of your country count up to 10?
There's some shocking literacy stats about the United States.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, Britain's not great.
Well, then you need to make it great again, obviously.
We keep trying, and then like everything happens badly.
Yeah,
so.
We've still technically got great in our country names.
Ooh, that's true.
Yeah,
make Great Britain again. I don't know. So yeah, we're talking about mostly 66% musical biopictures.
Musical pictures that aren't musicals.
I mean, Kieran's choice is kind of relevant because it's it does go into like the cliches of the other kind of musical biography, which is the musical documentary. So
yes, that is true.
That was kind of a specific thing. They'd got the characters and they were like, okay, well, maybe we should do something with it. And I mean, realistically, if we were doing the musical biopic kind of resurgence, one of us should have done Bohemian Rhapsody, but nobody wants to put ourselves through Bohemian Rhapsody again.
I said exactly the same thing before we came on.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the only reason, Kieran, I'm picking on it is that the musical biopic has its specific hallmarks. In a sense, it has its story beats that are different from the mockumentary and the documentary, and we could kind of run through that. Generally, it follows like the rise of a band or an individual and their trials and hardships, and there are different ways that different films have approached that. Some are more standard, some are more out there, and.
I mean, if you want a handy summary of like all the usual cliches, just watch Walk Hard with John C. Reilly, which is mostly Walk the Line, but with a bit of like Elvis's kind of story, and then a few other like references. But yeah, he has like the meteoric rise, and then the drug phase, and then the relationship problems, and it just ticks them all off, and then of course gets back on top by the end, with a comeback, So
I would like to point out, dear watchers and listeners and whoever's out there, smellers, let's go for all the senses, that when we were putting our list of 3 films together, I was the first one and said Spinal Tap. The other 2 picked other films and then blamed me for my issue. It's like, you can't do that. That's not how this works.
I think somebody said musical biography pick. I'm just keep saying that because... Is it
musicals that aren't musicals?
Biopicture? For my movie in iTunes, it is sorted as biography. It is not sorted as like, I don't know, musical or something.
In terms of how it's pronounced, I think it should be biopic, really. Even though in the UK we've sort of been trained to say biopic over the years. That sounds more like a medical thing. That sounds a bit too close to biopsy to me.
And Kieran, yours does get into the biography of a fictional band. But I think generally when we're talking about this genre of film, it's a true story or based on a true story. It comes out of that and is typically embellished or changed for dramatic effect.
I did see sort of an hour and a half ago, I found a clip with Christopher Guest, who plays Nigel in Spinal Tap. He's saying it's not inspired by anyone living, and obviously Spinal Tap isn't real, but apparently he was at a hotel, and there was a kind of British rock band checking in. And the manager turns around and goes, "Where's your base?" And the guy goes, "I don't know. I think I left it at the airport." And it's like, "You what? I might have left it at the airport." "What? How had you done that?" "I don't know." "But where is it?" "I don't know. Might be at the airport." And it goes, apparently this went on for about 15 minutes. It was the best 15 minutes of my life, aside from when I met my wife. So it's like, he's obviously drawing on real people. And if it wasn't true to life, it wouldn't have had the potency. But the actual thing is. And I would like to point out that Kneecap when we get to Kneecap are a real group.
Yeah.
But that story, I think, is fictionalized. So
it's obviously we'll come to it. It's there are things that actually happen, but it's an exaggerated version of their origin story.
Yeah,
essentially.
And same with mine. I looked at the real story and compared it to the film, and it's the same but different. And with Kneecap, it's a bit more extreme, but that's a better movie. So,
and to be honest, I think that is the case with most biopics, that you're going to take a general thing and you've kind of got to embellish it for dramatic purposes. I mean, originally, we're talking about kind of the modern trend session, Bohemian Rhapsody, as much as we go, it's edited to hell and it's incredibly sappy and not incredibly true to life, and they put songs in the wrong order of when they were released and things like that. I will say that Rami Malek has a very good performance in it, and I won't take that away from him. But originally, when the project started, it was going to be Sacha Baron Cohen doing Freddie Mercury, and he essentially wanted to do literally everything: the guts, the booze.
It wants to what's and all. I think he fell out with the estate holders, basically, when he wanted to do too many scenes in like trucker bars, basically, going into like Freddie's kind of sexual proclivities,
Because his thing was that kind of, I want to, if it's going to be about Freddie Mercury, I want it to be about Freddie Mercury the person, warts and all. I don't want, and essentially everybody else is bandmates. Surprisingly, wanted to protect his image and essentially make it about Queen and Freddie in Queen rather than Freddie Mercury. So it was like, I had to leave from that because there was a dispute in creative differences. But I mean, again, as much as we hate that, that kind of has meant that every year one or two come out really, and then normally one gets nommed for something. So you had the Whitney Houston one a couple of years ago, you had Rocket Man, you've had Bob Marley last year, you had Better Man, which is Jacob's favorite film of recent times.
And this may surprise people, but Robbie Williams, not a chimpanzee.
Oh, really? I'd never noticed that. He's played in this one, obviously, by Andy Serkis.
I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody really was that kind of the point where it really revived as like a going concern, I think, again for Hollywood. I mean, grossing almost $1 billion, and obviously, getting the Best Actor Oscar. It was the sixth highest grossing film of 2018. And it was the all-time box office record holder for any biographical film. So
and obviously a complete unknown, which Jacob reckons is not great. It's got it's 7
fine.
or 8 noms. As well, and it's definitely got I think a BAFTA nom. I don't know if the film as a whole got an Oscar nom, but Maria as well, with Angelina Jolie that came out a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was genuinely very good.
With a complete unknown, you get like the other side of it, whereas there's the films that have like the meteoric rise and the drugs and the fall and the reclamation and all, all the different full story of the band or person. A complete unknown's about a slice of Bob Dylan's life. It's about a very certain period of time, and so there's the other side of it too, and I do like that about a complete unknown, that it's a bit tighter. It's not Bob Dylan's entire career, just the beginning of it and how he made his impact and his growth and all that.
And of course, we missed out Elvis as well, that came out a couple of years ago and got all the things, which I didn't. I thought about seeing at the time, and went, this is going to have the same issues that Bohemian Rhapsody did, because it feels like a cash in a Bohemian Rhapsody. I won't bother. And now, since then, everyone's gone, no, it's actually very good. And I'm like, I still haven't seen it.
I mean, it's a Baz Luhrmann film, so it looks great and it's a lot of fun, but bears kind of very little relation to reality with a lot of the events depicted.
We could have done Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah, I will point out as well, I'm not going to get to see it because my car is dead at the moment, but there is a new Led Zeppelin. I think it might be a documentary.
It's a
documentary film called Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But it is actually in cinemas, as in my nearest local cinema that gets nothing is actually showing it. So it's like, this is a rare case when documentaries are being shown in cinemas. So if for nothing else, please go and see it, just for something different.
I mean, this sort of brings me on to one of my little questions that I kind of had read for this. So I've not shared this in advance with you. I'm gonna go off the cuff. I
Oh
get to
God.
think on the spot.
Like we
Is there
ever
kind of
prepare anything on this.
is there kind of a great kind of unmade so far kind of music biopics that you'd like to see? You'd like to see like a film feature version of like a band's origins or whatever. I mean, obviously Sam Mendes is working on his 4 Beatles films at the moment. So
I don't know. I'd want to do one that's like a little bit off the cuff
yeah,
and a little bit different. I mean, you've had people do weird ones. The one that springs to mind is Hitchcock doing Waltzes from Vienna. It's not great. Of how Strauss does his Blue Danube waltz.
yeah,
And then there's weird things like the weird combination of like concert films and like random stories like Metallica did Through the Never about 10 years ago.
yeah.
That it's just like it's a Metallica DVD and they tried to put a weird fictionalized storyline in behind it where weird random stuff happens which has no relation to the concert going on at all. So you need something that like has a load of just like controversy and madness behind it, something maybe something tragic in it, something like Lynyrd Skynyrd
For a second,
Buddy Holly. Maybe.
For a second, I was struggling to think of a name, and no, Kanye West. Like, give me the Kanye West biopic.
No. When he's dead 50 years, maybe.
I could care less. Do it now. Like, what are we going to be missing that we need at the end?
Let's not give him any more money than we have to. Is my point. Yeah, I'd want something a little bit weird. I looking at my rack of CDs here, it would be funny to see Rob Zombie do one and he direct his own biopic just to see what the hell happens, but do it purely about White Zombie. That would be the thing. I think there is a Netflix documentary on Iron Maiden coming at some point that they've announced, but that's more of a documentary rather than a biopic. Maybe like somebody that's not in the limelight as much, like Dave Brubeck, the jazz artist. My grandfather, before he passed away about 10 years ago, is a massive Brubeck fan, so it kind of circulates in the family. So something like that would be interesting, rather than kind of a big star, pop star, rock star, slightly different musically.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite bands is the Flaming Lips, and I think they'd be really good for a biopic because they're just mad, and you'd have to do it in their style. It'd have to be very psychedelic, off the wall, and just embrace their kind of surreal kind of personas. I think that'd be.
It's like I know a couple of years ago, Shudder did a Gwar documentary. I think it was that I haven't seen, which would be I need to see that at some point just because it's absolutely stupid. Have we got one for The Who? Or just about Keith Moon?
The Who?
Yeah, just on Keith Moon would be great. Because I see the thing with Alice Cooper and he goes, look, normally everything, when people go, all these stories about somebody, I go, every single word is true. With Keith Moon, they're not true because the actual truth is 10 times more ridiculous than actually all the stories. So I'd love to see something like that just because it's got a bit of tragedy, obviously, at the end, the influence and stuff like that. And you've got enough mad antics to throw in for your set pieces, which I think is kind of what you need for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for like The Who, you'd probably have to just, rather than a career kind of spanning one, you'd probably just have to focus on one of their particular, a short space of time, one of their particularly raucous events where they trash one of those hotels or whatever,
Considering the announcement yesterday that they're doing one final show with the original lineup, Black Sabbath don't have a biopic.
Yes.
So in fact, even not just Sabbath, just Ozzy.
Yeah.
How does Ozzy not have a biopic yet?
They're giving Ozzy a send off, before he retires properly.
Yeah, like the lineup for it is absolutely insane, and I'm like, I will not have enough money to go. Which ridiculous.
I just thought of a great new angle for my Kanye one. Everybody's a Muppet except for Kanye.
Yeah. God.
What? Just like Miss Piggy rapping, like.
Sure, she could play Kim.
I don't want this at all. Yeah, Jim Henson, just like biopic.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of documentaries about him, but yeah, it'd be a proper biopic would be good.
But then, would you have the Muppets playing themselves?
Yeah, I mean, he's in.
So when they're created, they just come to life.
The
and start walking
Muppets
around.
play the puppeteers, and then humans play the Muppets.
Who plays Jim Henson? It's just Kermit. Jim Henson.
I mean, he is in the Saturday Night, isn't he? The movie about the first Saturday Night Live.
I think so. Yeah, haven't got to see it yet.
I can't remember who plays him, but yeah, he's in there as a character.
Yeah. So does that answer your question, Sam?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Nice.
Something like that.
Okay, Kieran, tell us about This Is Spinal Tap, a rockumentary by Martin D. Berge.
Which we're getting a sequel to finally later this year.
I don't want a sequel to Spinal Tap.
We're so relevant. Is it called Was Spinal Tap or
Spinal Tapped? Tap out. I don't know what they're going to call it. This is Spinal Tap. It's Rob Reiner's debut. Somehow, after this, he just goes on to do a load of stuff. He does Stand By Me, Misery, A Few Good Men, a load of stuff, and somehow becomes one of America's kind of, I think, underrated directorial darling. It's probably got massive controversies, but I haven't heard of them off the cuff.
I don't think so. No. I think but I think he picks his projects kind of carefully, doesn't he? And he's just very consistent. He's versatile.
They make fun of him in South Park for being against smoking while eating cheeseburgers and not taking care of his health.
Yeah, but that's because he's turned it up to 11. So This is Spinal Tap follows a fictional British heavy metal band called Spinal Tap. I actually think a lot of them actually sound a lot like early Iron Maiden, just in the way they talk. Nigel's hair looks like very early Bruce.
It does, yeah. But one of the rare occasions where 3 Americans can actually do decent British accents.
It's ridiculous. It's because they're not trying to do it posh.
Yeah,
it is one of those things where people years later suddenly realize that they're not actually British and go, "Oh my god, how has that worked?"
This is how I learned those guys were not British.
I mean, Christopher Guest. I think he probably helps with Christopher Guest. I think his dad was a British ambassador. I think so. He probably
he's half
quite a bit of time
English,
in London. So
yeah, he's half English. But yeah, it's not we're all talking like this, kind of British aristocrat. It's all kind of like this, a bit of Cockney, that kind of area, down south. But yeah, it follows them on their kind of US tour. They've done one album, they've done a couple, haven't they? And they've got a new album coming out called Smell the Glove, and they are doing a US tour, and it's essentially Rob Reiner playing a fake documentary maker, and he's doing a documentary following this band around and all.
He's a fake documentary director, but a real mockumentary director.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of One Cut of the Dead kind of Inception level thing going on. The director of the film you're watching is directing the film you're watching, but it's not the film you're watching. And it follows him going around and getting into trouble and scrapes and everything, and clashes in the band and breakups and getting back together again as the kind of kudos weans and shows get cancelled and they can't find their way to the stage, and the stage antics happen in Stonehenge and turning it up to 11. And somehow we get absolutely amazing lines of dialogue that half the time you didn't know were from this film until you're watching oh my god, that's where that comes from.
I feel like we would be a little more competent at construction of our sets, maybe slightly.
Possibly, it's one of those that's just kind of, it's a certain type of humor, and I think if you click into it, you're going to click into it, and it's one of those where kind of, if you don't click into it in the first 10 minutes, it's not going to change that much in terms of the humor. There's some downs and kind of little heartwarming bits near the end as everyone kind of gets back together and stuff like that. But it is one of those, and comedy is on that level where if you don't click with the style of comedy that they're doing very early on, it's not going to work for you, and the rest is actually going to be quite tough to watch. This is one of my reasons why I don't like Will Ferrell. I just don't like his style of comedy, and therefore I just can't watch any of his films because it hurts to watch them for me. And that's not because of the actual craft, it's because I don't click with his comedic style.
Compared to his later work, do you know how much this is Christopher Guest, like guiding the improv and all of that?
Yes.
Well, they said in interviews they kind of they roughly knew what they wanted to do for the scenes. There's sort of 3 or 4 characters. And they would kind of go in having a rough idea of what they're going to do, but also improvising a bit. And then they'd use that first take almost like a writing session. And so they do sort of 3 or 4 takes of each of them, and it's almost like a refining the improv down. A bit like a couple of years later, you'd have the Arlie Ermy in Full Metal Jacket, and everyone goes, all this stuff was improvised and all the takes. It's like, well, no. What happened was he'd let him improvise the kind of lines and the insults and that kind of thing, but that wouldn't necessarily be the first take. They just use what he'd improvised on previous takes in the more polished kind of things later on. So the lines originally were improvised, but then probably not on the take you watch in the actual film. And that's, I think, how they kind of worked it with this. And then they got a lot of the other characters and cast were good at improv comedy as well. So even if it's just like a security guard with a couple of lines in a scene kind of thing, that he would be kind of decent at improv as well.
And it is his specialty, Christopher Guest. If you look at his later films, like Best in Show as well, it's he just I think he knows how long to kind of hold a scene for, just when to keep things kind of ticking over, because stuff like just happens naturally, and unless it's ever overplayed, it's just very, very natural, and it's funny because they're kind of they're playing it straight essentially, not really realizing how ridiculous they're being.
And they did actually apparently shoot it almost like a documentary, in that essentially they had 20, 30 hours of footage and then kind of cut it together. They it might have been Guest or one of the other cast or directors said that he spent sort of like 6-7 months cutting it together, and essentially it was refining it down, going, well, what jokes work, what goes where, and essentially fitting the material together like that from what they had. And then they'd go, well, this kind of is good, but it doesn't quite work because it doesn't quite lead into the next kind of bit, and it's an editing around to make sure that there's still a flow rather than just random gags and you've got to make it more than a sketch show, even though it kind of is a series of sketches and vignettes. It's then the skill is putting them in order to kind of chart that rise and fall and get the jokes in the right place properly, while still having a kind of emotional through line, as it were. Emotional for Spinal Tap. It doesn't quite sound right, does it? When you think of it, it's like you're not in it for the character and the weighty drama, and you're in it for random gags and stuff. So that's on that side. And when we say kind of Spinal Tap, it's all kind of made up, but there are quite a few kind of decent rock bands. I think people like Guns N' Roses and people that have actually played decent sized tours. They're gone. This isn't made up. This has just actually happened, and there's been several. I think Guns N' Roses is one of them. Maybe people like Metallica and Aerosmith have just gone, I had exactly the same thing, trying to find my way to the stage and asking people.
That is definitely like, based on a real band's experience. But I always forget which band it actually was. But
you'll find them in wiki. So all these kind of anecdotes and jokes that they're doing, a lot of them will be based on things that have actually happened. So it's not just like they're plucking them out of thin air. They've obviously done some research and watched documentaries and mockumentaries and things like that to get ideas, and we're going to base them around. So even things like with the little bread that they have at the beginning, I'm fairly sure like other people have gone, We haven't had that, but we have had weird catering before that's just wrong, and just stuff like that happening. And obviously, you're going to have on stage kind of disasters when the pod doesn't open. It's the bassist. I can't remember his name, but stuff.
Henry Smalls, Harry Shearer is the bassist, and so
so stuff like that not opening. Obviously, loads of bands have had incidents like that, so they're going kind of. We relate to this so much because it feels so much more like a documentary because it's actually happened to us. And I think that's the real charm with Spinal Tap, in that it's obviously a sketch, but it's very close to the line on all the gags of this has actually happened to people. And to be honest, with most of those bands, if they tell you that one performance went on absolutely perfectly and nothing went wrong, they're probably lying. That's just kind of how it works.
Yes. Kieran, do you have a favorite gag specifically in this movie?
Still turning it up to 11. Even Stonehenge, I don't think works as well because you know that the thing is so small before the big reveal that they do there. I mean, part of it is kind of the pain of knowing that, but at the same time, we know what's coming. So it was really different. The turning it up to 11 is just one of those things where you can. It's just a constant, without thinking, you just throw it out there.
I think for me, it'd be between the pod not opening and Lick My Love Pump.
Lick My Love Pump is still good, yeah. Because it's so unexpected.
I mean, it's consistently voted, I think, as one of like the favorite kind of comedies out there, one of the top like 10, maybe the top 5 comedies, like especially in the UK and the US. I think a sign of good comedy is kind of even if you've seen it like loads of times, like I have with this one, you can go back to it and it still just gets you, it's something about the tone. I just love deadpan tone in comedy. That's my funny bone.
The dry delivery of it was someone else's vomit.
At the start, I was thinking that. Great drummer. What happened to him? He died.
Just talk about all the drummers they've lost in freak accidents over the years,
which is obviously going on things like Keith Moon and and those kind of things, and people that died in like Skinner and along those lines. Just sent it off on a really sinister tone that doesn't quite go away, and you kind of forget it and I go, they did a thing right at the beginning where they kind of suggested comedically that they were murderers, It's just like, we're never going to come back to this.
I also like the historical footage of like their manager's band and whatever they were, like Flower Children, like lighter in like 67 or whatever.
Which is obviously like the Beatles kind of thing, or even smaller things like the Mamas and the Papas or along those lines. It's just like we've got this down, despite the fact that they wouldn't have been old enough back then.
No,
because this is set in released in '84. So even if you say it was a year or two previously,
it's set in '82. I think Fran Drescher says that.
Okay.
Okay. But obviously the height of their fame was meant to be like that kind of heyday of like the mid to late 70s, wasn't it? So,
with people like Skinner and the Who and Zepp and Sabbath and that kicking around. And even Motorhead were just starting around there. I think they formed in '75. So Spinal Tap is just great. Like it's one of those ones you just pick it up, put it on. It's like, yeah, we're watching Spinal Tap. This is how it works.
I think just after that cast conceit of just following like a well-known band backstage and kind of all the kind of the candid stuff, in addition to like using it basically to promote like an album or a performance or whatever. But obviously, just doing that for comedy, playing it straight. But it's just the ridiculousness of it all just really works.
And I think because it is so rare that you get to see behind the kind of big wheels of an industry like this, and even like bands themselves are industries in themselves. I saw a thing probably still about like 15 odd years ago now, maybe a little bit less, maybe 10. That Iron Maiden make around $50,000 per gig, pure. This is in profit. purely from T-shirts. It's just like, this is an insane margin, you know. So just there's a pure sheer scale of the industry purely for individual artists. Like, I dread to think how much like Taylor Swift makes per concert, just as like the brand itself, not just her, because obviously you've got the thousands of crew and everything like that. So to get to see even like a fake behind the scenes of planning everything and stuff like that, it's great fun because it's like appearing behind the curtain, and then you realize that they're all actual idiots. And you're just like, oh, thank God, they're just like me. It reduces that gap, and I think that's something we like. We kind of get one over on them in a way. And we kind of feel better as a result. It's like, oh, you know, they have a load of money, but they're just morons that somehow got lucky, to a certain extent, even if this is a play on that. And I think it's just feel good as a result. Bit of Schadenfreude, you know, would be my take on it. That, and it's well written, it's ridiculously well acted, the music is fun, and just some great set pieces.
So I think it helps as well that the tracks are essentially spoofs. They kind of work musically as well.
They're still bangers. Like, that's the thing. They're still good.
It's like the lyrics are like they're not aware of how kind of a lot of the lyrics can take in different ways and everything, but musically they're still good. You know, they're good rock tracks. You know,
like Stonehenge is still like, and I'm fairly sure on like Spotify, for example, you can get like all of the songs. Just like the actual tracks, because they did tour as an actual group at one point, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure.
Which is referenced in an episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes along to a Spinal Tap gig, which results in the weird situation where you've got Harry Shearer as a member of Spinal Tap and also playing about 10 characters on The Simpsons in the same episode.
Yeah. So it's weird that. There we go, done it. It now is kind of part of the cultural tapestry without people really noticing. Beautiful. It makes the part of the spinal cord of movie culture. I can't get anything else in there.
But by the way, I've looked up what the sequel is going to be called. It's creatively titled Spinal Tap 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Which I suppose is like a reference to Led Zeppelin, isn't it? Because they just did, you know, Led Zeppelin 2.
Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4, you know. I'm not surprised they didn't call it like Spinal Tap the Black Album or Spinal Tap the White Album, you know. It's always black and white. Nobody's ever done like Spinal Tap the Green Album. that should be the next one. But if you haven't seen it, go see Spinal Tap, because
it's great. It's so holds up. You know, it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite comedies easily.
In the US, it's on the Pluto free streaming platform, so that's how I watched it. It was supposed to have commercials and it didn't. So
all those commercials that should have been there have now gone to Disney.
Yes, and don't we're gonna watch an old man explode, I guess, in Spinal Tap 2. So
beautiful.
All right. I guess you've wrapped it up there. Anything else? Any last words?
Wrapped it up. That'll be coming later.
Any
Jacob, any final words from you on Spinal Tap?
No.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's good.
Had you seen it before this? I hope you had.
I've seen bits and pieces. I never sat down and watched the whole thing, but like I did know, you know, most of the jokes just somehow culturally. So
cultural osmosis.
It is one of those things that you kind of have almost seen it without actually seeing it, and it's just the little bits in between that link everything together.
I've seen Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman, so you know it's just a musical version of that. Well, rock musical version of that.
Yeah. So if we're all said and done with that, let's move on to number 2, going from kind of rock and roll Hail Satan to very much the opposite if we're going chronologically.
Yeah. Well, and also the one that is a biography of a real person. But yeah, I can only imagine. I chose this because you know, it's
why did you choose this?
It's just a fairly standard you know, biography picture. However, it's about a Christian band, and so it's an example of the Christian film industry trying to take an established sort of genre and then just cram themselves into it. And the star of this show, the Freddie Mercury, is Mercy Me's Bart Millard.
Discount Sean Astin.
Yeah, I asked you guys if he were in The Substance, 'cause this has Dennis Quaid in it. That's it's kind of a real what's her name? Damn it.
Yeah, if Dennis
Cloris
Quaid took
Leachman.
if Dennis Quaid took The Substance, he'd turn into Jack Quaid. But we've done this.
Yeah, and I asked you guys if this main actor from this movie took The Substance, who would he turn into? And yeah, Sean Astin. That's the only answer.
That is the new Muppets question. It's if this person took The Substance, who would they become?
So what's hilarious? Look, I'll tell you what happens. There's a kid, and he has an abusive dad, and his mom leaves, and he has dreams of becoming a rock star, but his dad wants him to be a football player and not a stupid singer, because that's not what men do.
Get a proper job, become a doctor,
Not even become a doctor. It's probably like work at a factory.
Well, then again, if you play football, you get the university scholarships, don't you? So,
in theory, but poor Bart, he breaks his ankles and he's in a wheelchair, so he has to sing like those unmanly men. But it turns out he's really good at it, and so he joins a band, and then the band is almost big, and then he has to go home and reconcile with his abusive now Christian father, and then I don't know, Jesus, and then the band is successful, and then
he
the
goes and
movie's
sings
over.
Amazing Grace.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That was something. So I feel stupid for not knowing this. I didn't know the Amazing Grace guy was a slave trader. So he's writing about a wretch like me, someone who bought and sold human beings for profit. I thought it was just like, I'm a bad person. No, you're a really bad person.
Yes, I point you in the direction of the Amazing Grace film that came out in 2006, starring Ioan Griffith, who is a Welshman, playing William. It's about William Wilberforce, who led the anti-slavery movement in Britain in the late 1700s. I know this because we were forced to watch it in history when we did the slave trade in Year 9. So,
yeah. And you guys got rid of that before us. So
yep.
good on you.
Not good on us for starting it in the first place.
No, but you stopped it.
But I mean, admittedly, as people have pointed out, there's like 4 times as many slaves imported to places like Brazil and generally South America than ever went to the US. So it's not just a US problem. Not saying it's good in the US.
It's a Western world problem.
It was essentially the Europeans taking over everywhere else and not wanting to do the work. Kind of
well, and they exterminated all of the indigenous people, so they needed someone to do all that work.
My point was, it's not just an American problem, it's an English problem, it's a French problem, it's a Spanish problem, it's a Dutch problem, it's a Portuguese problem. Those are kind of the main ones.
It's an America's problem, unfortunately. But back to old Bart. Bart is played by not Sean Astin, J. Michael Finley. And you know what? Like I said, I'm going to do the positives. He does have a good singing voice. And
is that actually him singing?
I'm taking that as the assumption. I don't know for certain.
I was going to say they're not doing a kind of 50s, 60s Bollywood where they had the professional singers, Ash or somebody, wasn't it? Who would do all the musical tracks.
Because are the versions of the songs different to the recorded ones? Are they sung live? Do we think?
Or did they get the original actual singer from the real life group? To do that and then just have him mouth it.
Poor J. Michael Finley doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, so I couldn't tell you any of this. Most of my research was into how much of this story was real versus exaggerated for film.
Yeah. I mean, real? And obviously the title is based on their biggest track, which apparently is the biggest selling Christian rock track ever. I've never heard of.
Yeah, that's
To be
Christian
honest, I
music
think
for
it's
you.
a much larger thing in the US than it is in the UK.
Yeah.
Probably not like 100% because there will be some Christian rock acts in the UK that
Yeah, I'm sure that
but
there must be
probably.
some groups that kind of do the rounds around all
Yeah.
the churches and kind of
Yeah. And by the way,
things.
this is a successful film. At the 2018 Dove Awards, it was the inspirational film of the year. So this is award winning, guys. The story between Bart and his abusive dad, it does emotionally manipulate you and tugs on the heartstrings, and it is successful at that.
Yes.
Do I think that it's the most sensitive and all of that towards that? I don't know. There's a point where Bart says, "My mom left my dad, then she got with an abusive guy. Kind of ironic, huh?" And I'm like, damn, dude, like, that's your mom. You're calling it ironic that she's with a new abusive guy now?
Yeah, and then he drops in that other nugget that his dad turned up and beats up the new abusive partner from him.
Oh, okay. That was nice of him. So
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
good abusive dad.
Yeah. No one gets to abuse you but me.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's pretty much all the positive I have to say about it. It is pretty standard as far as cinematography goes. That Dennis Quaid is fine.
Dennis Quaid is like a cartoon character. He's like if you had like an abusive dad in like a 50s animation or something, is literally his five got shadow drawn on.
Yes. He also parts his hair like Simple Jack in Tropic Thunder. But you know when Dennis Quaid has become a Christian because he's clean shaven, and tucks in his shirt now.
Oh god, the continuity on the facial hair really annoyed me on this because they obviously had Dennis Quaid for a certain amount of time and they had to shoot his together. But you get Bart at two different stages of his life and two different beards to represent that. When he goes back home to reconcile with his dad, he's got the short beard of the younger man again. So.
He does. So that's the most fun part about this movie is they're aware of it, that this 35-year-old man is playing a high schooler. They make that joke, but we watch an overweight 35-year-old man pretend to be a high schooler, and it's ridiculous. There's a point where he's playing football, American football, and apparently he plays wide receiver, but he's built like a lineman. So he's like, "Yeah, Dad, I catch the ball." And then Dennis Quaid is like, "Yeah, they tackle you." "Yeah, I let them tackle me. I never went down. I never got tackled. That's why I'm still playing football right now. Nobody ever tackled me." And like it's supposed to be about I don't know what it's supposed to be about. Toxic masculinity, I guess, but.
In the nice way to this film, the lines aren't the greatest for anyone to deliver.
They're not great.
And we have the classic kind of scene earlier on, at a summer camp, where his friend follows through and basically they commit to just having a relationship.
Everybody is immediately like understanding and friendly and happy and straight away on the first thing talking to each other. Having worked at a summer camp, this is not how it works.
He meets the only female character in the movie, who will be his like soulmate, even though they're not together for most of the film.
And they all go to the same high school. I think somehow
they introduced that at this summer camp they have notebooks, and somehow she has hers before he has his, and the friend's like,
I wonder if she's been in previous years, though.
Why wouldn't you get a new one? That doesn't make sense. And she didn't meet him until this year. And the friend bumps into her, and her notebook falls all over the ground, and you see the giant "I heart Bart." It's so dumb. Everybody writes in their notebook. They write one sentence per page in 64-point font.
Yeah, it's like I that bit that's what makes me think that she must have come in previous years in order to have this and know how it works and something like that. But then at the same time, like, are we meant to suggest that? Because initially I thought, well, maybe this is like they go in multiple years.
Have they met before? It seems like they might have done, because when they meet on the bridge, he says, "Oh, I'm Bart," and she says, "Oh, I know."
But then he hasn't therefore met her. So
Yeah.
is she
Yeah,
just like
so,
aware of
yeah,
him?
it's-
Was she
yeah.
like I don't know, maybe
You're the kid whose dad beats you. Yeah, I know you.
yeah, the only way I could do it is if they're kind of, I don't know, like parents are acquaintances, and so she remembers him from many years ago or something like that. You know what I mean? I was going to say if it's in the Deep South, they're probably remote cousins, but let's not go that way. But that still wouldn't, hence I know you and you've just forgotten who I am. But that still wouldn't explain why, like, not even a day later, she's got a massive I Heart Bart in her
Are we,
thing.
are we putting a lot more thought into this than the filmmakers did?
Yes.
Yes. Than the real life people did, surely.
To roughly quote Scream 4, are we overthinking it or are you just underthinking it?
Now, the thing with old Bart is that he's I don't know, like he's the only person in the band with any like character or personality, and the rest of them are just really bland white guys that stand
Well, they're
around
not
and play
there to have
music.
characters.
No, they're there to be props for there to be a movie. The only other characters are the dad, the cowboy with the long hair who's a Christian band manager, and then the cardboard cutout girlfriend who's in 2 scenes. And literally the entire movie is like a challenge to fail the having a not even the Bechdel test, the having a female character test. This movie doesn't pass that.
I think
Well,
it's probably easier to say that this movie is a challenge.
I suppose that there's that other Christian singer, isn't there? You know,
Oh, Amy Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, I will say, I just looked up.
Is that actually her playing herself, or is that someone playing her?
Oh yeah.
I think it's someone playing her. It is
No,
Nicole Duport.
Okay, fine.
I will say very quickly, there is one Christian rock band that I know of called Skillet. I know one song by them called Monster, and I'll admit it is actually a banger of a track. It's not got massive Christian lyrics. It's more kind of, oh, there's rage inside of me. It's losing control. That kind of like angsty, like 2009 kind of hard rock, slightly emo track.
He's got a great voice. You know, he can really belt them out. You know, not disputing that. He's just not particularly. It's not a particularly interesting story or character.
It's not. One thing that's really weird about this movie is that that they start out playing rock music, and then the cowboy motorcycle band manager's like, "You guys haven't found your sound. You got to play worship music." And they're like, "Oh, we got to play more boring music." Duh. That's how did we not think of that? And so, like throughout the film, they have these scenes where they're like, "You're not being authentic, Bart. You need to really find yourself." And I'm like, okay, so they're playing inauthentic music, but all of these Christians in the audience are raising their hands and they're feeling the Spirit of God through this inauthentic music. So tell me the difference between authentic and inauthentic besides marketability on the radio, apparently.
The difference is where it comes in the story.
Yep. And the way
That's
that
it.
so at the beginning, Bart's being interviewed by Amy Grant, and so how did you write the song, Bart? Well, it took me 10 minutes to rap the lyrics and then 10 minutes to rap the music. And I'm like, what? Oh, this giant song took a total of 20 minutes. You must have a real complex discography here, mercy me. And she's like, no, Bart, it took a lifetime. But it didn't. I guess it took getting beat up by your dad. Dad dies of pancreatic cancer. And in the movie, to change the drama of it, he died in 1991 when he was a freshman in college, but the movie drags it out. Like he gets diagnosed in 1991 and then like he's just not being treated until he becomes a Christian. So in the movie it plays out like
yeah, and it implies the song that was inspired by his relationship with his dad came about in the immediate aftermath of his death. You know, kind of it compresses everything.
Yeah,
a bit like my main objection to to Bohemian Rhapsody, the fact that it implies that Freddie knew he was HIV positive when he performed at Live Aid, and he was using it as like, you know, his last thing to, you know, his last chance to perform to the world, which is absolute nonsense.
And most of the a lot of the songs that they do, because they chart obviously coming up with some of the songs that are on different albums. The songs released in different years and stuff like that. And it's essentially they've taken it might have been the director. I can't remember the director of Bohemian Rhapsody, because something along the lines of it's not a documentary. It's an interpretation of events in an entertaining fashion. And apparently people will go along with that for Bohemian Rhapsody, but they'll have a go at Ridley Scott for putting sharks in the Colosseum.
In this movie,
I would imagine the quote probably comes from the screenwriter of Bohemian Rhapsody, because it was directed by Brian Singer, and they didn't interview him.
He's Brian Singer, not Brian Interviewer. And in this movie, the timeline, it's to sync it up so the song comes out right after Dad dies. But no, it took a long time. The way he comes up with the song in the movie is he's reading his schizophrenia notebook, where he has written the word imagine just over and over, one time per page, and he's flipping through imagine, I can only imagine, and it's like, wow, thanks God. And it's like God made you write one word per page over and over and over and over and over and over, and you didn't ever pick up on that until I don't know. Again, we're overthinking this movie. He calls the girlfriend to be like, hey, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend who I broke up with high school about approximately 8+ years ago. I'm journaling again.
Minutes in terms of film time.
Yeah, I'm journaling again, so maybe you can come to my final concert at the end of the movie. And so she does, and then they hug, and he sings the song, and it's a big hit. And I don't know. That's it. The stuff with the dad in the movie, the way it plays out is, it's a sad old guy trying to find comfort in his dying time, trying to reconnect with his abused child. And when I watch that, I don't see man with passion for Jesus. I see scared old man who has lived a terrible life filled with regret. And so when I hear real life Bart talk about it, he talks about I had a few years with my dad where he whatever. In the movie, he has about 1 month with his dying
one scene.
With his dying now Christian father, where they drive around in an old Jeep. And I don't know. It's fine. It's a movie about a song.
How much did they have to pay Dennis Quaid to be in this?
They probably paid him in indulgences.
I mean, I know that just looking him up, he became a Christian, born-again Christian, whatever, a fairly long time ago. So I'm expecting that he has a fairly strong Christian faith. And therefore kind of the material wouldn't be massively kind of against his principles or anything like that. He'd be fairly okay with kind of the messages and the morals and that kind of thing. But at the same time, in the nicest way to the Christian film community, it's a fairly niche market. And a lot of them will go onto kind of iTunes or Amazon. The only people that are going to see it are the people that are already members of that faith, realistically.
They're going to Christian streaming services. That's the...
Yeah.
Although, to be honest, as my old lecturer did say, if you want to make any money or guarantee a film to get made, make it a Christian one. He made 4 films off the 4 Gospels at one point. It was just those were guaranteed to get money.
Because they've got that inbuilt kind of captive market, haven't they? It's a guaranteed audience that will see every one of these that come out. So
especially when it's the top Christian song of all time. Speaking of that,
I thought that'd have been Away in a Manger, but ignore that.
Jingle bells. This movie made $86 million on a $7 million budget. So kind of good there. And the director, if you read it on Wikipedia, it says Irwin Brothers. That is 2 people. That is not Irwin. It is the Irwin Brothers, Andrew and John. And a couple of their other works include Mom's Night Out, which is Christian Bad Moms, where we're getting away from the kids and we're going to go to, I don't know, a movie and drink a soda. I've seen it. And then the other one they made is the anti-abortion film October Baby, where a girl finds out she was an aborted fetus that didn't take.
Is
I
that
survived the abortion.
is that less
Praise
offensive
be.
than that other abortion movie we watched?
I was going to say not we watched that you made us watch, Jake.
Yes. At some point, I'll make you watch October Baby. It stars the guitarist from the Mercy Me band in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that
You're just going to go through the entire band's filmography and make us watch it.
that guy, I forget the actor's name, but he must be the Irwin brothers' muse. He's in all their films, so he's their De Niro.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it that the film doesn't look awful. It's nicely shot. It's certainly better shot than the last one that we watched.
Yeah, I was saying to Jacob before we came on air. You know, it is probably the best Kristen movie I've seen. It's still a
about
2-star.
3.
Yes, it's still a 2-star movie, but you know, it's it looks decent.
I mean, let's be honest. In the last few months, we've also seen Ben-Hur, which I'll say it's a better Christian.
This looks like an actual movie with a budget, you know, and not just
but it wasn't just made by the local pastor with an old video camera that he got somewhere. Actually, no, I don't want to see those films. Anyway,
apparently the Irwin brothers, their first production was The Cross and the Towers, a documentary about the steel cross found in the debris of the World Trade Center after 9/11, and they got their start in making their own movies while working on the Kendrick brothers. That's another Christian mega director duo. They were working on their film Courageous, and Alex Kendrick said to one of them, "What is your purpose?" And so they came up with the idea for the anti-abortion movie, the anti-choice movie.
I will say at some point that we probably should look into some films for other faiths as well.
I've seen a movie that is Muhammad's POV. It's a cartoon, and that's how they get away with not showing Muhammad.
That is genuinely an interesting idea. Like, genuinely.
because he doesn't have dialogue, does he? Just the characters register as having heard what he's said, and you can get it from context.
I think I played video games like that. Could you make it a video game?
I've also seen movies about Ganesh and Krishna, and another one about the Muslim apocalypse. So I've got other religion movies in my bag.
You do interesting ones like that, but
they just don't impact my day-to-day life.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say it's like this film isn't badly shot, but we should also say that just because something, it's fairly easy to make something fairly nice looking now. It's not like if you don't have 100 million, it's going to be the grainiest thing in existence, you know? We know that even films shot on fairly bad cameras for today's quality and fairly cheap cameras look better than the most high-end stuff from 20, 30 years ago. So getting decent sound, decent picture does not necessarily mean that it's a great film. Having said that, it's better than the other one they've watched, so I mean that's my benchmark.
You know what's funny is the Rotten Tomatoes consensus. It says that its performances and storytelling represent a notable evolution in faith-based film or cinema, and by that I think they mean it is competent.
Yes. Again, not shot by the local pastor.
Yep.
And again, it's got a decent budget. Dennis Quaid isn't awful, but he's kind of. You go, oh, you're meant to be an abusive father. Okay, I've got this. I don't need to do any more prep. And you just kind of run with it at a certain point, and just rely on Dennis Quaid having acted in so many things over so many years, and just having a baseline competency to carry the rest of it.
I just have to laugh though. I sent you guys a screenshot the other night of the point of finale. It's meant to be the real poignant moment where he's you know, seeing his dad kind of as he plays his hit song. You know, he's seeing his dad in the crowd, and he's angelic now in a white shirt and everything. It's just this big close up of Dennis Quaid's massive face.
Yeah,
just terrifying.
Bordering on like a little Pennywise kind of curl up Skarsgård at the mouth. You know, it's.
I don't want to make fun of Dennis Quaid because I don't know if it's from stroke or plastic surgery, but what is wrong with his face? Like, did he have procedures done that made him look like he does?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know.
His face looks
Admittedly,
frozen.
we are picking on Dennis Quaid here, but he's the only person that we actually know from this film. So,
If it's from a stroke, I apologize. If it's from getting a lot of plastic surgery, I don't feel so bad.
don't apologize. No. The storyline is, I know, based on a true story, so there's only so much you can do with that. But the dialogue's not great. The acting isn't incredible. It's just kind of there. Essentially, there are times where you're just like, I'm just going to put this on in the background and do something else whilst it's on. This should not be the way.
You can put on so many better things in the background.
Yeah, this is not the way that we should be doing genuine film criticism, but there are times where I'm just like, I'm just going to scroll through Facebook at the same time, kind of thing, and not miss much. It's just one of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
If you never see this ever, your life is not radically changed.
It hits all of the standard hallmarks of the biopic and music biopic, I guess, and it also hits all the standard hallmarks of the Christian film, where everything is solved by being Christian. You were abusive, well, now you love Jesus, so you shave your face and you're forgiven by everybody, and everything's fine.
Yep.
So there you go.
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
Yeah.
Have we got any final comments on this?
No, I think we
Really?
about kneecapped it.
Yeah, let's go from one Christian dilemma to another one.
Yes, a very different one.
By the way, I've seen too many UK films about people being into drugs. Are y'all okay?
Yeah, essentially what happens is if they're not by like the major studios, if they're by the major studios, it's like really posh stuff or war films. That's what you've got. It's like royalty or World War II.
If you get into the indie sector,
it's
all council estates and drug abuse.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. Occasionally, you'll find somebody that does a horror film, and
You're living in a flat. You're taking a lot of drugs, and that's how I now envision life in the UK.
There is no in between.
Yeah. So very much in like the style of something like 8 Mile, which did the same thing for Eminem. It's this is again based on a true story where like the subjects are playing versions of themselves, but essentially they exaggerate a lot of it for for dramatic effects, just to make it a bit more like a movie, really worth watching. So it opens with this great kind of wry kind of gag, and it's basically every effing story about Belfast starts like this, and just get a montage of the Troubles, basically. Which fair point. Yeah, we don't really know how to tell other stories, based in Northern Ireland, really. But it goes straight from that into essentially. So we see Michael Fassbender. So he's the IRA fugitive dad of one of the members of Kneecap, basically, and it shows that he took his newborn son out into the woods in Ireland, and kind of bless him in a bit of a ceremony before they go picked out by a police helicopter because they presumed some terrorist activity was going on out there.
By the way, when you're a dumb American like me and you think this is just taking place in normal Ireland, Southern Ireland, I don't know, the south of Ireland, whatever they call it.
Of Ireland.
Don't worry, you do not have to be an American. Most of the Brits just refer to over there as Ireland. And it's just like...
There were so many points where I was pausing to Google, okay, hang on, where are we? What is happening?
Put it this way, before I started going out with my ex, who was from Belfast, when I started, I had to radically retrain myself to say Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland for obvious reasons. Normally in the UK, and Sam will agree with this, especially on news, essentially, we don't really know what's going on there until something's gone wrong. And normally that's something political to do with Brexit, or there's been some kind of attack. That's kind of our understanding, and that happens maybe once.
I'm worried that I've now had too much insight into Kieran's relationship based on two of the characters in this film.
Oh, don't worry, sorry about
Basically, Northern Ireland. Obviously, it's part of the UK constitutionally, but a lot of people who live there don't agree with that and would prefer to secede to the Republic of Ireland. So that's basically what the Troubles were over. So Republicans versus pro-British Irish people.
And essentially, it's kind of the British are Protestant and the Irish are Catholic.
Yes.
To be honest, at a certain point, those have nothing to do with religion. It means nothing.
And the sectarian violence between the two has a lot in common with some stuff that goes on in Scotland as well, which is why you get the links with the Scottish football teams there, Rangers and Celtic. And Ireland and Scotland obviously have a lot of links throughout history as well, culturally and demographics wise, and for language and everything.
The Irish going up to Scotland to help William Wallace and Braveheart, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Which was one of the least inaccurate things about that, because there were a lot of Irish mercenaries in.
What was the old Frankie Boyle joke that when they were doing Braveheart, people thought, Mel Gibson, playing a Scottish guy, that's not going to be accurate, is it? And look at him now, an alcoholic racist. It's about right. But anyway, back to Ireland.
So this follows the real Irish Republican rappers' kneecap. Stage names Mogul Bap, Mo Chara, and DJ Provi, who play themselves in this and basically struggling to find success and avoid reprisal from both the UK authorities and sectarian gangs in West Belfast. And you get obviously the real band members kind of play themselves with support from professional actors, most prominently Michael Fassbender, who I would suspect was a big reason this got made.
There'll have been a thing of we've got Michael Fassbender signed on.
I think he was producer on it, so I'm sure he threw his weight behind it.
Also, for any English speakers watching, unless you're really keyed into some slang, half of the English subtitles are not even going to make sense. I had to look up what Provi means.
Provi shot for provisional IRA, so which is obviously part of their image that one of them. And this is an element of film that is true. One of them always wears a balaclava, painted with the Irish flag colours, and that starts out because he was a music teacher in a school and he didn't want to be recognised by his pupils while he was, performing in this quite a controversial band. But it's become a big part of their branding. You go on, follow them on Instagram, and that's their brand basically. That's their logo, like the balaclava, and it's all over the marketing basically.
Sam, I knew you told us that the band plays themselves. I didn't expect that guy to be the third guy in the band. I was like, okay, so he's going to be the manager. Where's the other dude?
And it's. It doesn't. I'll give it this. It doesn't go quite the way you'd expect. Just throw a few curveballs in at you, but essentially, it's like the classic kind of surprising kind of breakthrough success and the struggles and everything like that. So essentially, they start as like a guerrilla band. Just literally, their first gig is at a pub, and they haven't been booked in as a band. They've just bribed the guy behind the bar. Basically, let's do a couple of songs, and they get spotted by a promoter, and they try to get their stuff on the radio, which the station goes back on that promise. Because of the controversial nature of their lyrics, which results in quite a nice kind of passage where all their neighbours and relatives start protesting, because basically they see it as a personal slight. These local boys aren't given their big break anymore. The second kind of aspect to this, apart from like all the usual music biopic stuff, and the kind of political message, they are a Republican band. They paint their asses with Brits out, and that's their general message. They want the British out of Ireland completely. It's about the preservation of the Irish language, the Irish Gaelic language, and how it's spoken by so few people. I mean, never mind the Republic of Ireland, but in Northern Ireland, there's on the news, there's an expert saying, it's more people speak Polish in Northern Ireland than they do Irish. It's about preserving that kind of cultural element of cultural identity, and not just to kind of preserve that aspect of your culture that's gone back generations and generations, but as an act of kind of expressionism and an act of rebellion. It's again one of the earlier interactions where they meet, where JJ becomes DJ Provy. He's called in to translate a police interview for Liam, and essentially from that on, it's basically the police, the British affiliated police, speaking English, and want everyone else to speak in English. They see kind of suspects speaking Irish as always they're hiding something. They're obviously plotting against us.
Yeah.
And you have that line about you need to decide which side of the table you're on. Kind of you're speaking Irish like me, but because you're on the cop side of the table, I don't really trust you. So there's all that going on.
He's talking about the furniture.
Yeah, yes, talking about the furniture. Yeah. I mean, just some of like the kind of the quick fire kind of quips and stuff. They seem very natural. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're scripts, but they played really well. I mean, that's pleasantly surprising. It's a band. They're not actors, they're a band playing themselves, but they're all just so damn charismatic, and I think they play some really difficult scenes and do them real well as well. Yeah. I mean, there's comedy scenes, there's scenes of pathos, there's some quite challenging
scenes when
stuff
they're high off their face,
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's some all sound classic kind of tripping balls scenes in this.
And I do like the fact that they kind of rotoscope in. It's not rotoscope, but for animations for little bits.
It's not rotoscope. It's not stop motion. It's something else. It's like almost like a combination of like styles, isn't it? Yes. So the director, Rich Pepiat, this is his directorial debut. I think he did a couple of music videos before this. But
I think he did one of Kneecap's music videos, which is how he kind of got the gig for this.
Yes, they kind of struck a bit of a friendship, and interesting that he's British rather than Northern Irish. So
it's weird that he's essentially doing a foreign language film.
Yeah. But he's got like for a kind of a feature first timer, he's got a really strong visual style, I think, and I think the kind of the editing's really punchy, and the cinematography is kind of quite dynamic. This could be quite I don't know, kind of dull and dialed back. If you go for like the aesthetic of like a normal film about Northern Ireland and like the generations after the Troubles, it could have looked very different to this. But he makes the most of the camera work. There's some drone stuff in here. There's makes the most of like the tripping on drug scenes. It reminded me a bit of. It was almost like halfway between some like Tarantino and Danny Boyle, I'd say. I think
there's definitely almost a late 90s feel to it. There's almost like a little bit of Train Spotting. There's a little bit almost like Guy Ritchie kind of dynamism in their earlier stuff. And obviously the trouble with those directors is once you get bigger and bigger and bigger, quite often you go down a more formalistic route rather than experimental kind of directorial style, and throwing in animation randomly and stuff like that and weird cuts. So it's kind of following suit from that.
He starts off there with the drawing on the screen and the claymation tripping scene.
Yeah. One of the other more memorable scenes is obviously see it a couple of times, but one of the band members only gets turned on by, but basically a pro British girlfriend. So
Well, is she British or is she Irish?
No. She's Irish, but because her aunt is obviously the cop, she's not Republican. She's a Protestant. From a Protestant family, so presumably they're more kind of pro British kind of.
Well, the thing is, it's like Well, the thing is, if you're born in Northern Ireland, you are British. That's kind of how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It is a country that makes part of the United Kingdom.
More precisely, I was asking: is she English or is she Irish?
No,
So
no,
is she
she's
from
not
Britain or
Irish.
is she from Britain or the United Kingdom?
Yeah. And I mean, and then like their interplay, during their bedroom antics, it's like they're shouting at each other. That's always it's Northern Ireland versus North of Ireland, so which is obviously how you if you're an Irish Republican, you say it's the North of Ireland because it's all Ireland, it's all kind of ours, or Northern Ireland is the British version of that.
Yeah.
And you have a most random cameo, well, not random, but most unexpected cameo in a long time. Actual Sinn Féin for Melissa. Is Ian Paisley? I have to look it up now.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I think it is. Oh, sorry, the other one, Jerry Adams. Sorry, Ian Paisley's dead, I think. Yeah. Actual former Sinn Féin. Actual former Sinn Féin leader Jerry Adams, who I think it was rumoured when they first announced this that they would be featuring him in the film. People presumed it would be like a deep fake type thing, but no, they got the actual guy in, and basically as part of like the drug fueled hallucination. Apparently they expect he'd kind of turn it down straight away because the content of the film, because he's quite kind of religiously conservative, but apparently didn't object to the drugs, but he changed the swearing in his lines to just flipping instead. So that was his condition. I'm not going to say the F word, I'll say flipping, and I'll appear in the film.
It is a weird kind of mishmash of all these different kind of ideologies. And I think anything that's going to be touching this subject, especially if you film it in Belfast, is going to be a strange concoction of kind of different ideologies.
And I don't think it's a comedy, but I don't think it trivializes it. I think that when it needs to be serious, it is serious. And obviously, it has a very serious. Obviously, this is more outlandish. This isn't based on an actual event, but obviously, things like this happened. They get a kneecapping in the film towards the end. So kneecapping is, again, it's referenced throughout the film. What's Belfast known for? And sadly, it's well known for the IRA's preferred torture method.
Yeah, Belfast does have what was at one point the most bombed hotel in Europe, which is not great.
There's a montage of bombings, that is that Mochara's dad was responsible for. And it's like all these like shops and things, CCTV footage of shops and blown up and stuff, and then a car that resolutely doesn't blow up, and Mochara's like, oh yeah, he screwed that one up.
Yeah, and for the US listeners, I mean, the IRA were a very serious thing in sort of the 70s in Britain. You had bomb scares in London and Birmingham very well, not like every week, but you constantly knew about the IRA were
London, Birmingham, Manchester, place like that, any like big populated area essentially.
So it's like they are kind of homegrown terrorists in a way.
And what's for me as an outsider, I don't really have all the political context, but the way the film frames it, and just generally what I know of British history, is that
you probably know more than us.
Probably not. I know generally about the British suppression of the Irish and the ways in which like landowners screwed people over, and so whenever they're talking about the language being a way to rebel and perpetuate culture, like that speaks to me.
It's still the only outside of, I suppose, politically sensitive areas of London. It's still the only area in the UK, region of the UK, where the police are armed. They carry guns.
Yeah, they kind of roughly in general, essentially, sort of the British went in sort of the 1500s, 1600s, and did a load of it. In sort of the 1918, 1920 around there. There was the Easter Rising, and essentially the Irish kind of fought back. And
Irish independence didn't take across the whole of Ireland, basically.
And the kind of and again, from my vague picking up, we didn't study this. This is not taught in British schools at all, unless you're in Northern Ireland. None of this, despite the fact this is very crucially a part of our history and heritage, or one of our nations. We don't talk about this, like, but essentially what eventually happened is that essentially a deal was struck, which is we kind of carve out this bit of Northern Ireland, which is where a lot of the kind of British population were, and they still want to be part of Britain. They didn't want to be part of Ireland because you've got British families who've lived here for generations. You have an affiliation with that country. You identify as British. So essentially, kind of that is a divide. So Northern Ireland is the UK, and the Republic of Ireland is its own country and part of Europe. Hence, when Brexit happened, everyone went, how are you going to do this? Because the Republic of Ireland is not part of the UK and therefore staying part of the EU, but Northern Ireland is not. How are you going to do customs? And they're like, there will be no customs borders. And it's like, but there is going to have to be.
And essentially, there's sort of almost like a porous border, isn't there? There's like the people in Northern Ireland get a slightly stronger connection to Europe just because they're actually landlocked with part of Europe.
So for many decades now, you have a thing where kind of there are some people in Northern Ireland going, this land mass is Ireland, and therefore I am landmass, therefore it should be Irish. But a lot of the people living there, and my ex was and her family were very strongly Protestant Northern Irish, kind of have family members in the British army, military, and that kind of thing, are very much, we are part of the UK, we are part of the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. Go away Catholics, essentially.
If I can recommend a really good kind of dramatic film, to kind of, if you want kind of more of a sense of this, you know, that kind of gets into troubles properly, is a film 71 with Jack O'Connell, where he plays a British soldier stationed in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, basically, and it's like, it's kind of dealing with that very thorny issue of like being British, but essentially having to suppress part of Britain, you know, and kind of the moral dilemma behind a soldier there, you know, and it obviously doesn't glamorize anything the British Army did at that point, but equally doesn't it doesn't kind of lionize it, turn like the IRA into heroes either. It's quite a balanced, kind of nuanced view, but really kind of visceral, kind of hard hitting kind of thriller. So yeah, I'd recommend that.
And of course, this is still going on. I mean, Kneecap came out in 2024. I don't know when the events were, but probably not that further back in time.
They've not been around for long. Kneecap, probably about 5 years, I think.
2017 was at the end. They have like the real footage, and his butt Brits out on his butt was 2017. So
I mean, I says on the back of this. I mean, it's very. Obviously, the big thing about this, is a lot of it's in Irish, and a lot of their songs are a mix of English and Irish,
and Irish Gaelic,
and when Gaelic stuff comes up, you know, it's subtitled and like, but the subtitles are everywhere on the screen, you know, kind of again, it's like, it's not like a very kind of standard way of doing it. It's just they're just sometimes affixed to objects and walls and things. It's almost like graffiti and stuff, but it's cool how it's done. But on the back of this, I've really got into Kneecap. I really like listening to their music. I think they're really talented, and you know, just some of their songs, you know, especially the more political ones, are really good. I mean, you know, I referenced, you know, the I'm an HOOD, and I think my favorite one of their songs, because again, a lot of it's very obviously anti-police, you know, anti-British, you know, as is their kind of one. I think my favorite one of their songs just makes me laugh is it's just about because they talk about, you know, taking drugs a lot and just how they're trying to get one over on the police, and the title of the song is "Your sniffer dogs are shite." It's just about just outsmarting the police, you know. It's great. I mean, there's some nice little kind of turns of phrase in this. Obviously, as you say, Jake, I know there's a lot of colloquialisms here. I mean, a lot of Irish kind of colloquialisms that we wouldn't use. I mean, you know, jocks or underpants, for instance. And,
peelers,
peelers, for police,
But every country will have their own slangs and colloquialisms. When we do a modern film set in kind of Australia that aren't like writing the aristocracy were going to have to mentally translate half of the language. So
but it's stuff like, advising you that public transport doesn't mix with ketamine. He's on the bus, and just everyone starts blending into the seat covers, on the bus, and the JJ, when he's a teacher, trying to get these bored-looking students, interested in learning the Irish language, and they're using this very archaic kind of textbook, like all these old phrases and kind of turns of phrase things, and there's a bit about cutting turf, and one of the girls asking, "How do you cut turf, sir?" And he replies with misery and despair, I'd say.
I mean, our Welsh textbooks weren't that bad, but as somebody that went through having to learn a national language as a second language for GCSE, some parts of that do kind of come across. It's like, I kind of feel it. I was one of the students bored in class, so
and you've got Michael Fassbender kind of referencing kind of how a lot of IRA prisoners kind of spent their time, so he says about his love language and his time on the inside. I'm proud to have learnt my irregular verbs on a wall covered in shite.
I do like the fact that there's the whole section of kind of the IRA against drugs section.
Yes, yeah.
Is that actually a thing? I don't know. I didn't look that up.
I think if it's not actually what the group's called, there are groups like that, I think, and they
to clean up our image.
But they eventually land on, well, if you have to have drugs, then you're going to sell them to us, not the kids.
I did learn that they either made up or like found ways to make up words for like the drugs. Essentially, I learned that MDMA is, I don't know the Irish word, but 3 consonants and a vowel, whatever that is in Irish. And then the word cocaine is like schnauzen or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, some of these kind of languages that aren't spoken as much, there are a lot of terms that kind of don't obviously get made because there's not enough people going into those specific kind of sectors to know about it. When I was at university, we played as part of the local chess league, and one of kind of the organizer at the time, he was an older guy, has passed away since, but he wrote the first kind of chess book written in Welsh, but in kind of how to play chess, strategies, tactics, that kind of thing, opening techniques. But a lot of the terms there were no words for, so he had to come up and invent chess terms for the Welsh language, and this is not that long ago as far as I can work out. It's probably maybe 20 years ago, something like that, and the Welsh just didn't have words for it yet. So the fact that Irish Gaelic would need to come up with terms for drug substances is not that far-fetched.
No. And obviously casting Michael Fassbender, apart from having an A-lister in your film to help sell it, is also a nice little reference to Hunger, Steve McQueen's film, where Fassbender is breakthrough role. He played Bobby Sands, who was IRA prisoner who basically went on hunger strike in protest. So there's a nice little kind of closing the loop there. So it's kind of it's kind of the classic kind of bumpy road success, and plenty of like creativity montages, as they come up with their tracks and how to match the lyrics and how to form them and everything. But I think it's got a lot more bites than like the standard music biopic. It's probably it's a lot funnier than most music biopics as well, which helps. But I think kind of the last act is a bit too much manufactured jeopardy and that kind of artistic license taken. But
George's aunt being the police lady was was a little silly for me, but
I think the more that Fassbender's kind of brought into it really, and kind of I'm not sure if that works out as well, but it's still overall I think this is pretty it's pretty great. I mean, this was my number 7 film in my top 10 last year. I really like it. And the Kneecap lads are good guys. They refuse to have the rights to the film sold in Israel as their vocal supporters of Palestinian liberation. So good on them. Probably unsurprisingly, this was the first Irish language film to premiere at the Sundance Film Festival. And they did submit. Alan did submit this as their entry into the best film not in English language at the Oscars, but didn't make the final list, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's got a few British independent film.
Did it win a TIFF? One of the independent British, sorry, a BIFA did it win the British Independent Film Awards.
I think so. British Independent Film Awards. It won from that thing. It got nominated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Did they object to
14
winning
awards.
British film awards?
They again, because I follow them on Instagram, and they had some hilarious things to say about that. They says, "Oh, isn't that ironic that the best British film is Irish?"
Yeah, again, if it's all shot in Belfast, if there's a lot of Northern Irish money going into it, and you are shooting in Belfast as well, the British are going to go, you shot it in our country. There's a lot of things from our country in here. We're going to put it up for our country's awards. Again, the politics coming into it.
But I will say... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, let me just look. You were looking at... they've got nominated a load of things. Irish Film Television Awards, loads of stuff still pending. British Academy Film Awards coming up on the 16th, so that's not Sunday, but next Sunday. They've got screenplay, casting, editing, not in the English language, outstanding British film, and debut pending for that. But they've got Breakout, the London Film Critics Awards. They've won a load of stuff at, they got nominated for Best Foreign Language at Kansas, Austin Film Critics Association, Georgia Film Critics, San Francisco Bay Area Critics, Dallas Fort Worth Film Critics Association. There you go, Jake, from your neck of the woods. Best Foreign Language Film, 5th place.
Too much English.
Sundance, it won the Next Audience Award, January 26th, 2024. And then there's loads of kind of the other more local stuff. So yeah, it is highly acclaimed and stuff like that.
I do wish that they would. Oh, sorry. Go on, Sam.
Who's talking?
Sorry. I was just going to say deservedly so. Saying it was highly acclaimed. I think they've.
I do wish the 3 guys in the band would anglicize their names for me, because Liam, sure, I could say that. I don't know. I hate reading Irish. Sorry, Irish.
Okay. Yes. So it's Liam and the other guy, Mogul Bap's real name. He's so it's a bit like Saoirse Ronan. So I think it's Nisha. Nisha.
Oh, Calorin.
Yeah, sure.
I point you to Lee Mack's sketch where he reckons that Irish names are just, they just put a hand in a Scrabble bag and just toss it around and go, there's your name, good luck with it.
They put an O and then you're from somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, what is it he reckons? It's the only language where you have more syllables than letters.
And then do we know what Moshara and Moglai Bot mean? Or... do we have no idea on that?
I in the nicest way, I'm going to pass.
No, I don't know. I know what DJ Provy means.
Yes. Let's see.
Like, I look at Irish and I go, wow, even Welsh is easier than this. Because as soon as you kind of know what the sound of everything is, it's fairly phonetic.
Yeah. Welsh is consistent, isn't it? As long as you know the F is a D and.
Google AI search says that.
Excuse me, get off the AI on a creative.
Hey, it's Google's AI overview. It says.
Yeah, I'm sure they're better than all the other AI companies.
Well, I'm not going to go through and click on the 3 articles it's citing, but apparently it comes from him being compared to Mowgli from the Jungle Book because of his haircut as a child. So I guess it's just the Irishization of the Gaelicization of Mowgli.
Sure.
We'll do that, yeah.
And a bop is a song, so maybe that? I don't know.
Yeah.
A bap's also a bread roll, so it could be.
And it could also be like pop, pop. That was a gun, if you're not watching the video.
That would be far too political for a very political band. Why would they do that?
I'm not even going to guess on Mo Shara.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very good film. Again, it's weird for me because I have kind of conflicting opinions. Growing up in Wales, which is very much a kind of take back the language against the English,
Yeah.
but then having had connections for many years with somebody who was very much on the Protestant side of Belfast puts me
Yeah.
in a very strange position
No, that's fair
politically
enough,
on that.
Yeah.
Despite that,
Yeah.
I can judge the film on its
Yeah.
merits as a film and say that it is
Yeah.
very good and very
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah. I just think it's different enough from the standard music biopic, and actually makes you, has a point to make, makes you think about stuff, and really funny and entertaining too. So
Yeah.
And
check it out if it passes you by. In the UK, it's on Amazon Prime, so that's easy. I don't know where it is in the US, but
I have personally become a Republican. So Irish, if you're listening, please take me in. I will learn your bizarre language. So I'll be a good immigrant.
To be honest, they all speak English down there as well.
Well, I'm willing to learn.
I think about like in Wales, you'd have to go out very, very rural to find a place where they're only speaking their kind of native.
As of the 2011 census, there are no monoglot Welsh speakers left in the country.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are people that are taught there are people that are taught Welsh as a first language, but by the time you're sort of like 5 or 6, you're also speaking English.
So if you're out there and you're speaking one of the historical languages of the British Isles, keep them alive, people.
Become a rapper.
Yeah.
I like the part where they're in the notebook and he's like, it flows better in Irish.
Yes.
And then it does. It doesn't sound as good in English. So good point, Liam. It's amazing how good of performers they are for non-professional actors. Really good.
Yeah.
They felt like they were played by people. So
well, they were just playing themselves, so I guess it makes it easier in a way. You don't have to do anything really.
Yep. All right. I guess we've covered everything for Kneecap.
Yeah.
Do
we want to what else biopic wise has been in the slates that we're expecting to be good or awful?
Oh, we've got the Michael Jackson film this year, so that's going to be big. It'll be interesting to see how they approach that.
Yes. Coming out 2025 and beyond. Just scrolling through somebody from Cinema Blend. So the Michael Jackson one. There's a Boy George biopic coming apparently.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Billy Joel biopic called Piano Man. Oh, there is a Keith Moon biopic that may be coming. Roger Daltrey gave an update that a script was written.
You get your wish. You get your wish.
Sam Mendes one. The Nat King Cole biopic that might be coming. There's a Kiss biopic. Janis Joplin, that'd be interesting. A Sinatra one. These are all getting to the point where kind of they're in vague development. There's a Springsteen one.
The Springsteen one with the guy from The Bear playing him. Yeah. And again,
I just found one.
About a complete unknown. It's just going to be like the span of recording an album, I think.
I vaguely remember this being a thing. Tom Holland is apparently going to be in a Fred Astaire biopic. That I am in for.
Okay.
I will take that. There's a Grateful Dead biopic. Oh my gosh. Apparently Ridley Scott may be stepping in to help do a Bee Gees biopic.
Yes, I have heard about Ridley Scott's Bee Gees. I mean, Martin Scorsese's Frank Sinatra project fell apart, I think. So sadly.
Okay. But yeah, I think we are in the musical biopic revival.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there've been some good ones over the years, haven't they? They're not all bland and unmemorable.
They're not all Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah. They're not all edited.
I think
there's more edits in one scene than there are scenes in the film. It's ridiculous.
You need a distinct directorial voice behind it, really, don't you?
I always say that when you get to a certain budget, probably sort of 40-50 mil, let's say, and above, the mark of a good director is to get a kind of directorial style past the edit.
Yeah.
If you can get to the end of the edit and be able to kind of identify that it's by a director without kind of you having known that and go, I think it's one of these two maybe and be on the ballpark, that's a good good director, because you've managed to not get it chopped up to hell, or it has been chopped up to hell, but there's a point still remaining in the final cut.
Oh, one final thing on Kneecap. I think it's funny that Liam has. I don't know if it originated with Notre Dame, but he has the Notre Dame College Fighting Irish Leprechaun on his chest. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that logo originated in Ireland and then the Notre Dame University adapted it, or if he got it from Notre Dame. Either way, it's hilarious because it's essentially an American football symbol is how we think of it. Yeah. So,
and you're like, oh yeah, other countries exist.
Yeah. So I don't know which way that history goes other than Notre Dame is an Irish Catholic school. So there you go.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, no, Kneecap, if you watch this, thank you. But there's no way you did. But it'd be cool if you did. Check us out.
Sam can tag him on Instagram.
We're essentially the Kneecap of podcasting, is what I've always said about us.
What you've always said since 2 days ago.
Yes. Yeah. Which one of us is JJ?
Surely you're the one with the controls, so you are JJ.
That's fair. That's fair. I have the biggest beard too. Okay, well,
you're the one that we want to put a balaclava on to hide the fact. No, okay.
Yes, that's what I say that as well every week,
so,
just off air.
Okay, me and Sam are the good-looking ones. Anyway,
so that's it for the music biopic / one mockumentary episode. We'll be back next week with something else.
Non-musical app.
Until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and on various places, sspthinksfilm.com, and also at the new Second Cuts, whatever it is. What is it again?
Substack.
Substack, thank you. Yeah, which I haven't got anything
Extended
up there
blog.
yet, but I will do next week. I'll have some superhero goodness coming up because the new Marvel's movie's nearly out. So
yeah, when does it actually come out?
Next weekend.
Okay. And I am K Judgmental in the various places. I am in charge of the socials, so anything for the socials is probably from me. And on the Substack, I went to see Companion last Friday, so my review of that is up. And yeah, more stuff will be possibly upcoming in the future weeks. Yeah, on the Substack, again, give us a break. We just started up. We're just finding out how to use it. It will get better as time goes on.
Yeah, and you can find me at Jacob Film Guy on everything. And then for that Substack, I'm pretty sure it's at Second Cut Pod. That's all of our socials. Emails at secondcutpod@gmail.com. Whatever else we say here. You can still go read our work at the Film Magazine through 2030 at least. And we don't sell merch or anything anymore. So
we will do. I will have my It's Weird.
Feel free to send us gifts of cash through the mail or something. That is it.
Is there a donations button on the Substack somewhere?
I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Or maybe we'll do that in the future.
Yes, that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Or watching.
Goodbye.